Lola Montez gained fame as a bold dancer and actress, known for her sensual performances that captivated audiences. After a scandalous romance with King Ludwig I of Bavaria, she ventured through the American West, becoming a celebrity. Her provocative performances challenged traditional morals and sparked controversy. Additionally, Lola used her influence to advocate for women's rights, being a bold voice in a society that silenced them. Women wore multiple layers of clothing to face the weather and maintain comfort. Over their stockings, they wore the famous bloomers, which, while not pretty, provided extra protection. In winter, some preferred wool versions that reached the ankles for better warmth. However, most wore cotton bloomers in cream or white, practical for daily wear. Here we see Elizabeth Bacon Custer with her husband, General George Armstrong Custer. Known for her beauty and courage, Elizabeth stood out as a writer and speaker. After George's death, she dedicated herself to preserving his legacy, writing books and giving lectures about her experiences in the Old West. Elizabeth helped shape the historical narrative of the West, becoming a respected figure and a passionate advocate for George's memory. In the Old West, respectable women did not wear makeup, which was seen only as something for women of the night and actresses. Wearing cosmetics was considered unacceptable for those wanting to be respected. The beauty standard valued very pale skin, which indicated that a woman belonged to the upper class and led a different lifestyle. How a woman presented herself said much about who she was and how others viewed her. Ada Isaacs Menken, an actress and poet from New Orleans, became famous for her performance in Mazeppa. In 1861, she shocked audiences by appearing seemingly nude, tied to a horse on stage, a bold act that made her an international star. Her striking beauty and talent earned her the title of one of the highest-paid performers of the time. During the gold rush in California, Lotta Crabtree emerged as one of the most talented artists of the Old West, enchanting miners with her dance and music performances. Soon, she gained fame and began performing in packed theaters across the country. With her success on stage, Lotta became one of the wealthiest women of the time, investing in hotels, strategically located commercial buildings, and shares in railroad companies. Josie Washburn, born in 1860, was a remarkable woman of the Old West, known for her beauty and leadership as a brothel manager in Nebraska. While her appearance attracted attention, it was her intelligence that ensured her success. Josie dedicated herself to improving working conditions for women in her brothel and became an unexpected ally of the authorities in the fight against local crime, something rare for someone from the marginalized brothel sector. Rose Dunn is remembered as the brave young woman who faced the Old West alongside outlaws. As a teenager, she became involved with the notorious Doolin Dalton gang, a group of robbers and gunmen. It is said that Rose helped the group escape the law and even saved the life of her boyfriend, the outlaw George Bitter Creek Newcomb, during a shootout in Ingalls, Oklahoma in 1893. Despite her past, she left that dangerous life, married, and started a family. Pauline Cushman was a spy during the Civil War. From New Orleans, she moved to New York at the age of 18 to pursue a career as an actress. In 1863, while performing in Kentucky, Pauline received an invitation from the Confederates to toast their president, Jefferson Davis. She accepted, but with a secret plan, to work as a spy for the North. Pauline infiltrated enemy lines, gathering vital information for the Union Army. After putting on the shirt, women would fasten the corset, an essential item of the fashion of the time. Made of lightweight material and stiffened with whalebone or steel, the corset was designed to create the desired hourglass figure. While many women wore it for an elegant look, the madams managing brothels took this fashion to a new level, using adorned and extravagant corsets to impress clients and highlight their status. Susan Anderson was one of the first female doctors to practice in the Old West. After graduating in medicine in 1897, she settled in Fraser, Colorado, where she became known as Doc Susie. For nearly 5 decades, Susan served the local community, providing all kinds of treatments, ranging from fractures to respiratory diseases. During the 1918 flu pandemic, her work was crucial to the region. Mary Hallock Foote was a writer and illustrator who portrayed life in the Old West with great realism. After marrying a mining engineer, she moved to California and experienced the hardships of mining communities. In addition to her literary career, Mary was also a talented illustrator, contributing drawings to various publications of the time. Beautiful women of the Old West paid attention to the details of their clothing, and stockings were a prime example. They wore long silk or cotton stockings that reached up to the knee and were held up with garters. During the day, they preferred black, a practical and discreet color, while at night they chose white or colored hues that added charm and sophistication. Some also perfumed their garters, leaving a light fragrance as they walked. Victoria Woodhull broke barriers by becoming the first woman to run for the presidency of the United States in 1872. Known for her bold spirit and ideas ahead of her time, she was an advocate for women's rights, women's suffrage, and freedom of expression. In addition to her historic candidacy, Victoria was also the first woman to open a brokerage firm on Wall Street alongside her sister Tennessee. Annie Oakley, one of the most famous and beautiful sharpshooters of the Old West, showed remarkable talent with firearms from a young age. This gift led her to perform in shooting exhibitions, and at the age of 15, she defeated renowned sharpshooter Frank Butler, who later became her husband. Annie gained worldwide fame in the Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, captivating audiences with her precision, even splitting a playing card in half with a single shot from 30 yards away. Margaret Tobin Brown, known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, gained fame after surviving the Titanic. In 1886, she moved to Leadville, Colorado, where she accumulated great wealth with the discovery of gold in 1893. During the sinking, she stood out for helping other passengers, being remembered for her bravery. Besides being courageous, Margaret was passionate about fashion and often wore imported outfits from Europe, drawing attention wherever she went. Jenny Rogers, known as the Queen of the Colorado Underworld, was much more than a pretty face. With a solid reputation, she built an empire and became one of the most influential figures in Denver. Tall, dark-haired, and elegant, she arrived in the city after several marriages and with $17,000 stolen from a former lover. With this amount, she founded her famous brothel, the Mirror House, on Market Street, the most luxurious and infamous in Denver's history. Josephine Earp, also known as Josephine Marcus, is primarily remembered as the longtime companion of Wyatt Earp, the famous sheriff and gunslinger. Born in New York, she was a young adventurer who moved west in search of new opportunities. In Tombstone, Arizona, she met Wyatt, with whom she would spend the rest of her life. Josephine, with her strong and independent personality, encouraged Wyatt to abandon his gunslinger life as they sought a more peaceful existence together. Julia Boulette was born in London and moved to Virginia City, Nevada in 1859 during the height of the silver mining boom. There, she became one of the most popular courtesans, primarily serving the local miners. In addition to her work, Julia helped care for the sick during flu epidemics and often contributed financially to the local fire department. In 1861, she was honored as the Queen of the July 4th Parade, parading with the city's firefighters. Hair was seen as the crowning glory and the main feature of feminine beauty in the Old West. There was no shampoo as we have today, so to clean their locks, women used sweet-smelling oils, cow fat, perfume, or even mixtures of eggs and lemons. While these methods left the hair clean, they did not provide the softness that many desired. Girls under the age of 18 could wear their hair loose or braided, but upon reaching adulthood, it was expected that they would keep it tied up in public. Only prostitutes and actresses continued to wear their hair down after becoming adults, which differentiated them from the respectable women of the time. This difference in hairstyle was a clear sign of status and social role in the community. Dora Hand, also known as Fanny Keenan, was a beautiful and talented woman of the Old West, famous for her voice and presence in Dodge City. In 1878, she delighted audiences with her performances at the Lady Gay Dance Hall and the Alhambra Saloon, where she sang and performed, attracting the attention of many. However, her life ended tragically when she was shot by a man trying to hit the city's mayor. In Cripple Creek, Colorado, during the bustling gold rush, Pearl de Vere made history by founding the luxurious brothel Old Homestead. Born in Evansville, Indiana, and known as Mrs. Martin, Pearl attracted customers willing to pay up to $250, around $6,500 today, for a night in her establishment. Her beauty and charisma were only part of her success. She was admired for the care she showed her employees and the high wages she offered. Calamity Jane, whose real name was Martha Jane Cannery, was known for her independent and fearless spirit. To cope with the harsh life of the frontier, she dressed as a man but had a heart that beat strongly for Wild Bill Hickok. It is said that when called Calamity Jane, she felt such pride that she would buy drinks for everyone in the saloon. With her loyal and fearless demeanor, Jane lived life on her terms, becoming one of the most remembered women in the history of the West. Dora Dufran, who arrived from Liverpool to Deadwood as a child, became one of the most renowned madams of the Old West. With beauty and business acumen, Dora managed several brothels, including the popular Diddlin' Dora's. To control rats, she kept cats in her establishments, inspiring the term cat house. A friend of Calamity Jane, Dora lived a life full of adventures and remained an influential figure until her death in 1934. Considered one of the most beautiful women of the Old West, Lottie Dino was also one of the most famous saloon players. Born as Charlotte Tompkins, she came from a wealthy family and learned to play cards from her father, a banker. After her family lost their fortune in the Civil War, Lottie ventured into the West, making a living in saloons. In towns like Fort Griffin, Texas, she quickly earned a reputation as an unbeatable player, being called the Queen of Poker. Mary Coulter was a woman who changed the architecture of the Old West. In the early 20th century, she designed famous places, such as the Desert View Watchtower at the Grand Canyon. Coulter blended Native American elements with Southwestern style, creating an environment that celebrated the region's beauty. Her attention to detail and ability to blend buildings into the landscape won many people over and left an important legacy in local architecture. Josephine Airy, known as Chicago Jo, left her mark on the Old West as a businesswoman and a generous figure. Of Irish descent, she settled in Helena, Montana, where her Red Light Saloon soon became one of the most famous brothels. During a flu epidemic, Josephine transformed the place into an improvised hospital to care for the sick. She also organized dances and charity parties, earning even more affection from the community. Known as Baby Doe, Elizabeth McCourt Tabor was one of the most prominent women of her time. A native of Wisconsin, she moved to Colorado after a troubled marriage. There she met silver magnate Horace Tabor, whom she married and lived in luxury until the silver market crash in 1893. On his deathbed, Horace asked Baby Doe to never leave the matchless mine, and she took this to heart, spending her final years in a cabin next to the mine. Here we see the beautiful and mysterious Etta Place alongside Sundance Kid, with whom she lived adventures throughout the Old West and beyond. Although known as Etta Place, she used different names at the hotels where she stayed with Sundance Kid. Starting in 1907, Etta disappeared from historical records and her fate remains unknown. Many have tried to uncover her story, but to this day her past and her end remain a mystery. During the turn of the 20th century, Kate Rockwell, known as Klondike Kate, shone in isolated communities in Alaska with her captivating performances. Originally from Kansas, she moved north during the gold rush and quickly stood out for her talent and charm. Her performances, filled with energy and joy, delighted miners and workers seeking entertainment in the harsh conditions of Alaska. Mary Ellen Pleasant was a successful businesswoman and fervent abolitionist in the West. During the gold rush, she opened restaurants in San Francisco to serve the mining population. One of the first black millionaires in the United States, Mary Ellen used her fortune to support the abolitionist movement and help enslaved people seeking freedom. During the gold rush in California, Eleanor Dumont, known as Madame Mustache, stood out as one of the few women working in card games, especially blackjack. She opened her own gaming hall, the Vingt et Un, in Nevada City, where only stylish men were admitted and champagne replaced whiskey. Later, she also began managing a brothel. The nickname Madame Mustache was due to a faint line of hair that Eleanor had on her upper lip. Prostitutes of the Old West were known for wearing white dresses, which became a hallmark of their identity. These dresses, often made of lightweight materials and adorned with lace or embroidery, were chosen to highlight beauty and femininity. White symbolized purity and innocence, creating a contrast with the nature of their work and challenging the social norms of the time. In this 1878 photograph, we see a woman from the Cheyenne tribe reflecting the dignity, pride, and natural beauty of her people. With strong features and dressed in handmade traditional attire, she represents the elegance and rich cultural heritage of the Cheyenne. The women of the tribe were admired for their beauty and strength, playing essential roles in the community, such as caring for families, building the tents, and preserving traditions. With a passion for nature and taxidermy, Martha Maxwell was a pioneer in the Old West. She hunted and prepared her own specimens, gaining admiration in a male-dominated field. Besides her talent, her beauty helped draw attention to her work. Martha became the first woman to have a bird subspecies named in her honor, the Maxwell screech owl, a small and elegant owl from the western regions. Belle Starr, known as the Queen of Outlaws, led a life full of adventures and controversies. Born in 1848 to a pioneer family, she became a legend for her involvement with bandits and the outlaw life, participating in robberies and heists. Fearless and charismatic, Belle associated with notorious gangs, such as the James Younger Gang. Besides being a bandit, she was an excellent rider and skilled with weapons, which bolstered her reputation in the Old West. Atoy, one of the first Chinese women to immigrate to the U.S. during the gold rush, settled in San Francisco, where she founded a luxury brothel that attracted influential politicians and businessmen. Known for her beauty and elegance, Atoy stood out for her strategic presentation, wearing fine clothes and adornments that enhanced her presence. Her connections ensured protection for the business, consolidating her status as a powerful woman in San Francisco. Polly Pry was the first female reporter for the Denver Post, known for her boldness in exposing injustices. In one of her most famous articles, she advocated for the release of Alfred Packer, convicted of cannibalism, drawing national attention. In 1903, she investigated abuses in Indigenous schools, including the Fort Lewis Indian Boarding School. Her courage brought her enemies, and in 1904, Polly survived an assassination attempt. Here we see Elizabeth Libby Thompson accompanied by her pet squirrel. Better known as Squirrel Tooth Alice, Libby worked as a prostitute and dancer in Dodge City, Kansas, and in other frontier towns in the 1870s. Later, she moved to Sweetwater, Texas, where she opened her own brothel and gained fame. Alice was obsessed with squirrels. Besides having one that accompanied her everywhere, she often fed several around her brothel. Della Moore, also known as Annie Rogers, caught attention for her beauty in places like Fort Worth and San Antonio, where she worked as a prostitute. In 1898, she became involved with the outlaw Kid Curry, a member of Butch Cassidy's gang, with whom she lived a life full of risks and adventures. After Curry's death in 1904, it is believed that Della left that life behind and followed a new path as a teacher, ending a remarkable story. Laura Bullion, a member of Butch Cassidy's gang and known as the Rose of the West, pushed the boundaries of the Old West. With dark hair and an intense gaze, Laura was both beautiful and bold. Participating in train and bank robberies, she showed great courage. Skilled in disguises, she often dressed as a man, wearing loose clothing and hats to avoid capture and infiltrate places without being recognized. Anne Bassett, dubbed the Queen of Rustlers, was a courageous and independent woman of the Old West. Born in Colorado, she grew up in a ranching family and learned early how to handle cattle and the harsh life of the region. She gained fame by standing up to powerful local barons in land and cattle disputes, always defending the small ranchers. Anne was also close to the Outlaws of the Wild Bunch, led by Butch Cassidy, with whom she allegedly had a romance. Maddie Silks, known as the Queen of the Denver Red Light District, managed brothels in several cities, including Springfield, Dodge City, and Georgetown. In Denver, she operated a luxury house on Market Street, famous for its elegance and high standards for employees. Maddie was described as attractive, with blonde hair and blue eyes. Her outfits were always elegant, with dresses that had 2 pockets, one for gold coins and another for an ivory-handled pistol. Arriving from England to San Antonio, Texas, Fanny Porter built one of the most famous brothels in the region at the age of 20. Her establishment, known for its hospitality and refined atmosphere, welcomed members of Butch Cassidy's gang. Fanny was respected for her discretion and beauty, ensuring comfort for her visitors. She was the link that brought Etta Place and Sundance Kid together, the couple that would become famous in the Old West. Ellen Watson, called Cattle Kate, began her life in Canada and years later decided to settle in Wyoming to raise cattle. Her beauty and independence did not protect her from land disputes, and in 1889 she was wrongfully accused of cattle rustling. On July 20th of that year, Ellen and her partner were lynched by powerful local ranchers. After investigations, it became clear that the accusation was an excuse to take her land. Cynthia Ann Parker became well known when she was captured by Comanche warriors in 1836 at the age of 9 during an attack on Fort Parker in Texas. After her capture, she was adopted by the tribe, where she integrated into Comanche culture. She married the tribe's chief and had 3 children. After spending 24 years among the Comanche, Cynthia was recaptured by the Texas Rangers in 1860 and forced to return to Anglo-American society. Big Nose Kate, born Mary Catherine Horney, became famous for her connection to the gunslinger Doc Holliday. The nickname Big Nose came from her prominent nose, in contrast to her dark hair and striking eyes. She met Doc in 1877, and the two became inseparable, traveling through Dodge City and Tombstone, Arizona. In Tombstone, Kate opened a popular brothel known for the high standards she imposed on her employees. Maddie Earp lived an intense life alongside the famous gunslinger Wyatt Earp. Working as a prostitute in Fort Scott, Kansas, she met Wyatt in Dodge City in 1876. Together, they moved to Tombstone, Arizona in 1879, where Wyatt served as sheriff. During their time together, which lasted about 6 years, Maddie faced health problems and became dependent on laudanum. She died from an overdose years later. The legend Fanny Sperry Steele was one of the most talented riders of the West. From a young age, she demonstrated incredible skills with horses, competing in local rodeos. In 1912, she won the title of World Champion Women's Bronco riding at the Calgary Stampede, riding the horse Red Wing. Fanny continued to compete into her 50s, and in 1975 was the first woman inducted into the Rodeo Hall of Fame. The hats of the Old West, decorated with ostrich feathers and flowers, were very popular among women. In cities like San Francisco, these hats appeared at events, dances, and in everyday life. In the 1880s, they stood out for their colorful flowers and long feathers, contrasting with the rustic environment. Some of these feathers were so rare and valuable that the hats became prestigious items, passed down from generation to generation as family heirlooms. Abigail Scott Duniway was a pioneer for women's rights in the West. In 1871, She launched a newspaper in Oregon to promote women's suffrage. After decades of struggle, she achieved victory in 1912 when women won the right to vote in the state, and Abigail drafted the proclamation. Besides being a journalist, she was a novelist and included themes of equality in her stories, broadening her impact and connecting readers to her vision of social justice. Born in Wales, Martha Hughes Cannon immigrated to Utah and made history. In 1896, she was elected to the state Senate, becoming the first woman in the United States to hold such a position. In addition to politics, Martha was a doctor and an advocate for women's suffrage. In the election, she defeated her own husband, a fact that surprised many and strengthened her image as a progressive and determined woman. During a wagon trip from Missouri to California in 1846, Susan Shelby Magoffin documented her entire experience in the Old West. Married to a trader, she wrote a detailed diary about the difficulties and beauties of frontier life. Her diary and illustrations not only recorded this journey but also serve as an important source of information about the era, still widely used today. Sadie Orchard arrived in Kingston, New Mexico in 1886 at the height of the silver mining boom and quickly became one of the most influential women in the region. She opened brothels, operated hotels and restaurants, and co-owned a transportation line, showcasing her business talent in a male-dominated world. During World War I, she helped the poor, and during the 1918 flu pandemic, she cared for sick children and people. In this 1886 photograph, we see a beautiful young Texan cowgirl posing in traditional attire, embodying the fearless spirit of women in the Old West. Alongside men, they worked on ranches, tending cattle, driving horses, and participating in rodeos. Besides supporting the farms, they defied expectations about women's work. Many cowgirls, like those from Texas, were skilled in roping, riding, and competing, earning the respect of their communities. In the photo, we see a woman wearing a bustle, which could have been a steel structure or a padded pillow attached to her waist. This accessory was used to add volume to the back of the dress, creating the desired silhouette that was popular in the 19th century fashion. In the Old West, women adopted the bustle to accentuate their clothing, especially on special occasions or in saloons where elegance was essential. In the Old West, white and healthy teeth were highly valued as a symbol of beauty and status among women, reflecting personal care and wealth. A radiant smile was seen as a sign of vitality and attractiveness. However, in photographs of the time, it is rare to see people smiling with their teeth visible, as many had poor dental conditions or missing teeth, leading most to pose with serious expressions. The German Lou Gramm arrived in Seattle in 1888 and quickly became one of the most influential people in the city. After the Great Seattle Fire in 1889, Lou was one of the first to rebuild her establishment, located at the corner of 3rd Avenue and Washington Street. Her luxury brothel attracted the elite, including politicians and businessmen. Besides her business, Lou invested in real estate and supported public schools, leaving a remarkable legacy after her death. Born in Kentucky, Belle Brazing started her career at 19, and by 1881 she opened her own brothel on North Upper Street. Known for its discretion and luxury, her establishment attracted influential clients. In 1891, she opened a mansion on McGowan Street, which would become one of the most refined places in the southern United States. It is believed that her life inspired the character Belle Watling in Gone with the Wind. During a journey in 1864, Fanny Kelly was captured by Sioux Indians while traveling from Kansas to Idaho with her family. She spent 5 months as a prisoner, facing many challenges in captivity. Finally freed in December, Fanny was reunited with her husband and continued her life. Her experience became known as one of the most impressive survival stories of the West. Diamond Lil Davenport, born Honora Ornstein in 1882, lived her glory years as one of the most extravagant and influential figures of the Old West. Known as Diamond Lil due to the diamond embedded in her tooth, She made her mark during the Klondike Gold Rush, managing one of the most luxurious brothels in Skagway, Alaska. Her establishment attracted wealthy and powerful clients, interested both in the luxury of the place and in Lil's charismatic presence. During her adventures in the Old West, Nellie Cashman emerged as a courageous and entrepreneurial woman, known for her determination as well as her beauty. After emigrating from Ireland to the United States, she settled in San Francisco and soon ventured into mining regions. In 1912, defying the era's restrictions, Nellie became the first woman to vote in Alaska, leaving her mark as a pioneer. Johanna July grew up in a Native American community and quickly attracted attention for her exceptional skills with horses. In 1887, she made a stunning debut in a circus, where her acrobatics and riding performances delighted the audience. Johanna quickly became a popular attraction, drawing a diverse clientele that admired her talent and charisma. Sarah Winnemucca, daughter of Paiute leaders, used her position to protect and promote the rights of her people. She served as an interpreter and mediator between the Paiutes and the government, and during the Bannock War of 1878, she served as a scout for the United States Army. In 1885, she founded a school for Indigenous children in Nevada, teaching English and reinforcing Paiute culture. Emma Lillis Quigley, a renowned opera singer, made a surprising transition from the stage to venture into the world of brothels. Known for her charming presence, Emma began adorning herself with extravagant jewelry and luxurious dresses, each costing around $5,000, a fortune for the time. She utilized her musical training to entertain select clients, offering private performances that combined art and seduction. Toby Winmaw Riddle was a Modoc tribe woman who made history in the Old West. During the Modoc War, she served as an interpreter between her tribe and American soldiers. In April 1873, at a peace meeting, Toby warned officials about a planned attack, preventing tragedies. For her heroism, she was granted a military pension, something rare for Indigenous women. The Apache warrior Lozin was famous for her combat skills and a gift that helped her foresee enemy movements. By raising her hands to the sky, she felt where her enemies were located. In the arid landscapes of the Southwest, she fought bravely during the Apache Wars, defending her people against settlers and army troops. Besides her combat skills, Lozin was also a healer, using her knowledge to help the wounded in battle.